Well, hello again. Welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm here with my beautiful wife, Michelle.
Hello, sweetie. And everybody.
And everybody. So good to have you with us. We are back. We are in the studio. This one is a new episode. We didn't record this one weeks ago. We are recording this on Sunday, January 27th, 2019. Yes, we are back from vacation, and we're so glad you're here with us.
Oh, yeah. It's fun to be back in the studio. We had a great trip. It was fun getting away from it all, but it's good to be back.
It is good to be back, and we appreciate that you found us here today. In the future, you can find us on 1057max.com under the Max Plus tab, as well as on the Max FM app. You can also find us, and better yet, subscribe to us. It's the best way to get this podcast: iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. And we love hearing from you. This is an interactive show. Please contact us when you get the moment. We love all our Hyperion adventures. You can contact us. You can find us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And you can always email us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And we do love hearing from everybody. We love the response that we get, especially when we put out questions and things. And soon to come, we will be on Pinterest as well.
Ooh, that's right. Michelle's been working on a Pinterest board,
yes,
which I have no interest in, but she does such a good job with that. I've turned the reins over to her for that. I'll worry about Facebook and Instagram, which she doesn't really like Instagram, so I'll handle Instagram. And
well, not that I don't like Instagram. I'm just not as, uniform about using it all the time.
I gotcha. No, and that's same with Pinterest for me. Pinterest seems to It befuddles my brain when I go onto Pinterest, and I think the same thing happens to you with Instagram. So,
right,
but not that it takes much to befuddle my brain. So.
I was thinking to say that, but I don't want our listeners to think that I'm constantly joking about you or.
No. Just most of the time.
Edit that out.
No. There is no editing. There'll be no editing. It is the truth.
Man.
But we have lots of stuff for you today here on the show. There's a new land in the works based on a popular Disney movie coming to a park, not really near you, but not that far away, one you might want to visit. We may have a new Disney princess coming. I'll give you details on that. And we also, there's a lot of mayhaves in this one. We may have a new title for at least the version of the new Disney cruise ships that are coming out. We'll be discussing all that later on the show, but let's get to our main topic. We always start with the main topic. This week, our main topic is us, because we like to talk about us. Now, we're going to recap our vacation with the purpose of, yes, we're going to talk about the cool stuff that we got to do, but also we're going to tell you about what we liked, what we didn't like, and just give you some tips on if you're going to do some of this stuff that we did, so you can kind of have a viewpoint on it, and maybe it might be of interest to you.
Right. Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. There are always many of.
No.
Always many of. No, but we had a great vacation. We did some great things. We started off with an 8-day Southern Caribbean cruise on board the brand new Carnival Horizon ship. Beautiful ship. Then we came back to Florida, spent a few days there with Michelle's sister and brother-in-law. It was just a great time out near the Cocoa Beach area. Mm-hmm. And we also paid a quick visit over to the Walt Disney World Resort and the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. So we got a little bit of info on that for you if you're planning on going out there in the next few weeks. And we also finished up the thing with a trip to our favorite musical of all time. We got and saw Hamilton in Orlando. So we will talk about all that. But let's start with our 8-day Southern Caribbean cruise aboard, as I said before, the brand new Carnival Horizon. It was a beautiful ship. We had a great time. It was a great itinerary. We really enjoyed it.
We really did. They have a new unique way to add to a balcony that we've learned that we really enjoyed. If you're familiar with cruising, you know about a promenade deck, a deck that goes around the ship, generally speaking. And so what Carnival has done is they've kind of, especially in the back portion of the ship, segmented it off into using the balcony to be actually part of the promenade deck. And so that gave a way to add a lot more space so that we had a little swing, we had a lounge chair, we had another...
We had a swing. It was funny. It was like a hammock swing, but it was Michelle's actually favorite place to sit when we were outside. It was great.
It was. So, a lot more space than what you would normally have on a balcony. So that was awesome.
Yeah. So here's what you need to know about. If you're used to Disney Cruise Line, or if you've never cruised before, you've never cruised on Carnival, what you need to know about Carnival Cruise Line is that they're kind of like the bare bones cruise. You pay probably a much lower fare, definitely than what you would pay for a Disney Cruise Line. It's fair and a little lower than some of the other cruise lines like Princess and Royal Caribbean and such. But then they're kind of, I compare them to some of the budget airlines out there where the ticket price is one thing, but then if you want to do this, if you want to do that, if you want to do the other thing, suddenly they start charging you. And that is a lot of what Carnival does as well.
Right. So it is a great way to go on a budget conscious cruise, and you just have to then you're in control of what you want to spend and what you want to, have as add-ons. And that is different than what you would see with other cruise lines, especially with Disney Cruise Line, which is a lot more all-inclusive for many of the things that you would pay additional for on Carnival.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things to pay for. Some of them are great experiences. Some of them you have to judge for yourself on whether they're worthy. But you can go on a Carnival Cruise Line just for the base fare, eat at the main dining restaurant or the buffet and some of the other food areas around, and you don't have to pay anything extra to enjoy the cruise. We could have done that if we wanted to, but we did choose to do a few extra things, and we are going to tell you about a few of those. Right.
And going back onto that comment that you just made, absolutely. I mean, just for, like you said, the bare bones, you would definitely have, your cabin, you would have food in the dining room or the other, buffet and some other restaurants there. They also have outdoor activities, whether it be with a pool and accessories to the pool and, trivia games and things like that. So those are all included.
Right. So there is stuff that can go on there. You can have a great cruise experience with Carnival Cruise Line. Just know what you're in for ahead of time. So we're going to go through this cruise that we had, and we're going to kind of tell you what we loved about this cruise, what was okay about this cruise, and maybe what we didn't like so much about this cruise. Overall, we said we had a wonderful experience. It ended up being a great time. But there were things, of course, as there are with many things you do, that are kind of both sides of the scale. So we're going to start with positively the things we loved. And the first thing we loved, we just talked about our cabin. Our cabin, which was called a Havana Cabana. It's a specialized area with really large veranda, which Michelle was just explaining to you about. Even though it was on the promenade deck, there was a gate there that kind of closed it off from people, so we had some privacy. We also had access to our own, within our cabin category. Only those people in those category could use this pool, and they had a couple hot tubs there as well, and area to sit out in the sun, and a bar there. Only people those people in that category could use that up until 7 p.m. So we kind of had a little private area just for our group. We didn't have to be so slammed trying to get a deck chair or whatever we wanted.
Exactly. And, before going on the cruise, I was really kind of concerned with the issue of after 7 p.m., there's going to suddenly be people who want to try to, explore that area. And that really never happened, So I think people, they tended to get used to the locations that they were during the daytime, or in the evenings, maybe they were going more to the bars and things like that. So we really it was never heavy traffic. We really didn't get a lot of people walking through other than the people who were there. And in some regards, what was really nice is because it kind of, like you said, it's veranda type style. We actually got to talk to some of the people in the areas next to us and get to know them, or, at least, learn a little bit more about some of our neighbors on the cruise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really fun. It was kind of the whole veranda had a white picket fence kind of around it. So it kind of very much felt, it was kind of in a more Latin style white picket fence, but it was fun. And you could open up the front and walk out and walk onto the promenade and walk either out towards some of the restaurants and bars, or you can go back towards where the pool was and just kind of walk out that way. And that was just kind of fun. And the few people we would see walking by a lot of times were some of our neighboring cabin mates.
Exactly. And you still had the ability to lock your actual cabin, your sliding doors and things like that. So never felt like somebody was going to, just be able to freely walk through our private area.
Of course, we paid a little bit more for this cabin. It wasn't the cheapest cabin by far on board, but it really was a value to us, especially it just ended up working out perfectly. We had a nice time to just sit out, relax. The weather was perfect, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. We just really enjoyed this cabin, and we already booked it again for another cruise on actually a ship that's coming out in 2020 or 2021. I think it's 2021, the Panorama. Yeah. Which is coming out and is going to be sailing out of Mexico or sailing down to Mexico out of Long Beach coming up soon. Maybe 2020, but it's coming out within the next couple of years here. And we've booked another cruise aboard that ship in the exact same style and number cabin we had for this one. That's how much we loved it.
Right. And if you are looking to explore, Carnival Cruise is an option for you. These cabin styles are only on the newest ships.
Right.
So I think from Vista forward.
Yeah, the Vista, the Horizon. What's the next one that's coming out? Is it the
Riviera?
I'm trying to remember, but there's another ship coming out, and then there's the Panorama that's coming out after that. It wasn't the Sunshine, or I don't remember.
Oh yeah, something
like Sunshine. But just take a look for those ships. They all have those cabins aboard them, and they are a good time.
So one other thing about the cabins is that these cabins were for passengers who were, I believe it was 12 and old.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So you couldn't have kids in the cabin area. The other thing though on that ship is they do have family cabins that are more geared towards families and kids. So, in addition to like how they style the room to have, I think they have an extra TV for the kids and bunk beds, things like that in certain cabins. And they also have like a lounge where kids can go and families can go.
They have a lot of different styles of categories of cabins on this ship for various different needs. Of course, they have the very simple inside cabins up to, some really nice suites, just a lot of different things and to look for if you're trying to book ahead on this cruise. But we like the cabin we were in. That's why we stayed with it, and that's what we're going to do on the Panorama. And we're looking forward to that. And right out of Long Beach, so it'll be nice and close to home. On to our itinerary. As I told you before, we did an 8-day Southern Caribbean cruise. It started on a Saturday, ended the following Sunday of the next week. Really great itinerary. We really loved it. Here's how we went. We went to Grand Turk of Turks and Caicos, I could say it. La Romana of the Dominican Republic. We stopped in Curacao, and we stopped in Aruba. It's one of our favorite things that we loved about this cruise is that we loved the ports. Grand Turk, if you haven't been there, it's really great. They've put a lot of money into the cruise ship area itself. So where the cruise pulls into port, they put a lot of money into that area. They have a fenced off area with some shops and everything, but they also have a great white sand beach right there on that site. Lots of lounge chairs. Just a great area that you can just walk right off the ship. You don't even need to go. If you want to go do an excursion, great, but you can have a great day just getting off the ship. We happened to get there, and we were only there from 8 to 1:30, so it was kind of a half day, so we weren't looking to do too much, but it was a wonderful beach day. The beach chairs don't cost you a thing. There's not a lot of solicitation going on there like you can find in some cruise ports at some of the beaches. There was a nice bar nearby, which we got some great, wonderful tropical drinks at. Just had a really great day there.
Right. It really was beautiful. The water was nice, and it was actually kind of calm. You could go into it right there on the beach. And like you said, it had a little bar, also a little restaurant if you wanted to try some local seafood. But it really was beautiful and very convenient. And I walked along the coast of the area a little bit more than you did, and I don't know if I had shared this with you, but when you got certain distance away from the port on the beach, there was actually like a fence, and it said, "You are now leaving the cruise terminal port area. You're kind of at your own risk."
Right.
So it seems like like you said, they did put money into making this really nice and feeling of protection. And so kind of had it all there in a really simple location.
Right. It's not to say Grand Turk is dangerous. It's not by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
Plenty of people went out and did things both through the cruise line excursions and on their own. There are lots of great places to go, lots of great other beaches you can go to around that island. However, we just wanted to take it easy, and there was all these chairs out there. We got out early, got a great chair. You could see it would get fairly busy after a point. It was a fairly busy beach after the ship of 4,000 plus guests on it started to empty out onto there. But there were lots of great spaces to get to, and we really loved that port and would go there again.
Right. And I think as long as there's only one cruise ship in port at that time, like we were getting ready to sail as another one was coming in. I think if there were two at the same time, it might get crowded.
Unless they were two small ships,
True.
yeah. But if they're ships around the same size as this one, then it might be a little crazy. You better hope you're the one that pulls in there first and you can get that chair first. By the way, if you're going off the dock, if you happen to be going there, if you're going off the dock, the right side of the ship has some chairs that tend to be, they didn't get taken up as much. It wasn't really a secluded beach, but it felt a little more secluded than the left side from the ship, which everybody seemed to flock to mostly. So, and also I've heard that if you go farthest out, that everyone tries to kind of huddle nearer the ship. As you go farther out, you might be able to find more chairs as well. So just giving you some tips on that. Dominican Republic, we didn't really do much in the Dominican Republic, to be honest with you. We just kind of planned to do some other things during that day and just kind of take advantage of the pool. But really was a great view from the ship of it. Looked interesting. I thought it was funny as a sports fan that the first thing you see when you pull into the port there's 3 baseball fields with all these kids playing. If you know anything about the Dominican Republic and Major League Baseball, there's some great Major League Baseball players that came from the Dominican Republic, and it's classic. Just if that's what I think of the Dominican Republic. I'm sure that's not really what it's all about, but that's what I think of being a sports fan. Right. And so there's baseball fields right there next to it, and there are kids out there playing all day long. It was really great to see.
Right. I could just imagine them playing there and getting the view of like the port and the cruise ships coming in. It must be fun too.
Yeah. So really cool. Curacao was really beautiful. We did do an excursion in Curacao. We went out and did a kayaking excursion through the Spanish waters there, what they call the Spanish waters. Really great trip. We had some great guides. They took us through this area. There was even a little tricky part where the current would go pretty fast. So you had to kind of just get it right, exactly right. We had someone in our party that not us, but someone with our group that did tip over in that part, and they had a tough time getting back in, but they got through it and had a good time. But we had a lot of good time. They did say it was also a snorkeling excursion. There really wasn't much snorkeling. We had like 15 minutes at the end of it at a beach to kind of relax and drink some water and kind of just chill out. But the snorkeling was a kind of a whatever there. But the kayaking was really great, and we'd do that again as well.
Absolutely. It was beautiful. It was, really interesting because we were kayaking in an area that did have a lot of other traffic, whether it be jet skis or boats. So in addition to the regular current, you'd have to also be watching when a yacht went by or something like that and caused some additional waves.
Yeah, exactly. One of the interesting things that we passed by is that the Curacao Yacht Club, which is there, and they told us, and we didn't know this going in, that apparently it's a place where when hurricanes come into the area nearby, a lot of the boats from the other islands will come there because a lot of times Curacao gets missed for whatever the reason. Their placement is out there in the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, that they don't get hit a lot by the hurricane. So a lot of these boats come there to be safe while this is going on.
Right. A lot of how the mountain formation is, I think, also kind of helps shield some things, and so that was interesting to hear about that as well.
Yeah, so it really a fun excursion. We were paddling through what they call the Beverly Hills area of Curacao, and they had these amazing houses, just crazy stuff right there on the water. Insane yachts out there too. There's just some really crazy stuff, but it was really a cool experience. And again, like I said, we would do that again. Aruba was our final port of call. We did plan to go into port that day and kind of just, we didn't have an excursion plan, but we were going to kind of walk around, maybe hit up a casino while we're there, kind of do some shopping and everything. But unfortunately, poor Michelle came down with a vicious migraine that day. Yeah. And so we kind of just laid low, relaxed, sat in the cabin, kind of just read, watched TV, whatever, just until her headache went away. Poor thing, she was suffering.
Yeah, it's
Poor
rare
thing.
that I get them, but I think the by the combination of, maybe not drinking enough on that other excursion, being out in the sun. I probably wasn't.
Stay hydrated, ladies and gentlemen. Stay hydrated.
Should have worn a hat and things like that,
It all piles up, and there is salt water splashing on us, and that'll drain you out too if you don't think about it. The salt getting on you will start to drain moisture out of your body. Just all things that kind of fed into that. Now, we had been to Aruba before. It's the one island that we visited that we've been to before. That's why we didn't have much plan to do there, because we've done stuff there before. So we just kind of were going to take it easy. But, unfortunately for Michelle, she wasn't feeling great, but she got feeling better soon enough, and we had the last couple of days, which were sea days, which were great days on the ship.
Yes.
So those were we loved the ports. They were great. I highly recommend, if you have never been to some of these ports, doing a Southern Caribbean to some of these areas. They were spectacular. We had wonderful weather. January was spectacular down there. It was like mid 80s, sunny, a little clouds. Sometimes it would rain a little bit, but it was never really bad. The water was smooth as could be. It really had smooth sailing. It was a really great time in that regard.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really cool finding yourself that close to South America.
Yeah, we were really close to South America. You can almost see it from where we went. And our next cruise, what we have planned, which is the Panama Canal cruise, we are actually going to finally touch South America for the first time, and we go to Cartagena. Which we had planned for our last Panama Canal cruise, but they had to cancel it because there's some weird stuff going on in Colombia at that time, so they had to change the ports around. So we didn't get to do it that time, but we're hopefully going to get to do it next year when we do our Disney Cruise Line Panama Canal cruise. Other things we love from this cruise. The chef's table experience was the best thing of the whole cruise. We tried to book this ahead of time. It was already sold out, booked up. We couldn't get into it before the cruise started, so we just kind of figured, we'll go on the waiting list and just hope for the best. We'd booked a night actually at the steakhouse, and then they called. The night happened to actually be the same night we were in Grand Turk. They called and said, we have a spot open. Would you like to take it? Like, yeah, let's do this thing. It was amazing. You go in and you meet with at least we met with the sous chef of the whole ship, the sous chef, which is basically second in command of the kitchen. You get to go within the kitchen itself, where they're feeding 4,000 plus people out of this kitchen. They have a kind of a secluded area that has a smaller kitchen that they use for this event, and I think in a few other things, but mostly for this. And they have a specialized room which you go into, which is the chef's table room, which is decorated immaculately. Really interesting. And they started us out with this fantastic thing that was like a levitating dish. Like it had some magnets on the bottom and a magnet within the dish. And so they would push against one another and it would levitate above it. And they served food on top of it. If you go to our social media, you can see a video of it. It's the craziest thing.
Right, because you could spin it as it hovered above the plate there. And it was fun. It was just really a very impressive way to initiate the evening.
Yeah, exactly the way it was. It was just really amazing to kind of check it out for the first time. The presentation, that was the start of the presentation. It only kept going from there. Everything was amazing. The food was spectacular. I don't know how much food we got, but it seemed like it was like 18 courses of food. There were so many it was all little tiny plates, and they were spread out over 3 hours, but it was amazing food done in an amazing way. And it was a surprising value for us. I mean, yes, you can go on the cruise ship and eat in the main dining room and the buffet and some other places and not pay an extra cent. This was, I believe it was $95 per person. But it was well worth that price. Not only that, we also got all the wine thrown in without any extra cost. So we had a glass of champagne when we first got in there, and then both white and red that paired with the meals all the way through, and they just kept reloading it for us. We had all the wine we needed. Like I said, it was a 3-hour experience. We got a tour of the kitchen. They put they had a magician come in at one point and kind of put on a little show with us, which is sounds kind of weird, but it was really entertaining because he would do everything. There was 14 people at this table. And he would do something with every single person at the table. He stole my watch right off my wrist. I didn't feel it. I had no idea until he dangled it in front of me. Like, I got your watch. I'm like, what happened here? Really cool. It was just a really fun event. And if you get a chance to do it, book it early. Get on the wait list if you can't book it, if you're going to do this, but do it. It's amazing.
Right, absolutely. And, what I was thinking about it after it actually, Remy's, I think, is the next closest thing on a cruise ship that we've done that's similar to that, especially if you do their tasting with the wine package. It's similar price. The one on the Carnival cruise did charge you for an additional, not just the $95, but also for 18% gratuity.
Right.
So,
but it was
comparable to Remy's.
I think
you don't get to do.
Right. The difference with Remy, I think, is that Remy, it's more like it'd be just the two of us. It could be more of a romantic dinner, or if you have some friends with you, table for four or whatever. It could be like it's more of a group. We were sitting with a bunch of people we didn't know.
Right.
So, they were all nice people, and we enjoyed the night with them. But, I think that's the difference there. The food and the presentation is really great at Remy. Right. We love that a lot. But this was excellent as well. And actually, I think it's a better value than I love Remy.
I agree.
But this is a better pure value. I think the food might be a little bit better at Remy, although this was pretty darn good. So it's really hard to say.
Right. Well, and the other thing that made this even more special, I guess, than Remy's would be the fact that you actually had the chef in the room with you as you were doing the tasting. So if you had any questions, and just his, interaction and being involved directly with it, whereas Remy's, like you said, it's like a date. Somebody's bringing you the food. The servers are excellent, great service. But it is much more special having the actual chef be there in the room as you're being served.
Exactly. A few other things that we liked. We'll get past but we won't get away from food because we never get away from food. There were some extra fee restaurants, actually a lot of extra fee restaurants to pick from on the ship. We only did a couple of them that we actually paid for. They have some sampling stuff that's cheaper, or it doesn't cost anything during the day that you can kind of sample a few things, and those were hit and miss. But as far as for dinner, we only tried two of them. We tried the sushi place, which was good. We enjoyed the sushi place. It was very good. And the Italian, which was fantastic. I love the Italian restaurant. Great choice. You get basically, it's $15 extra. You get a 3-course dinner. All of it was spectacular, and I'd recommend the Italian.
Yeah, that one, the service was above and beyond. The food was a better quality than what you got into the dining room.
Right.
So, yeah.
The other thing I liked about this ship in particular, the Carnival Horizon, was that even though there are like 4,000 guests on board this ship, it never really felt that crowded. There weren't, maybe if we didn't try and dodge people at the main pool, so maybe that was that way. But like when you went to the buffet or some of the other places, some of the spaces where they were having the trivia, or, just if you wanted to go sit down and have a cocktail or whatever, never really felt that crowded. You didn't feel like you were slammed in all the time with people, what you sometimes can be on some of these cruise ships.
Exactly. And the other thing that was nice about this is they did also cater to kids.
Yeah.
So they did have a special area for kids. They broke it up by age categories, very similar to what Disney does on their cruise ship. They've really embraced the Dr. Seuss, and, they have a whole pool area and, water playground for the kids. That's Dr. Seuss theme, and then some other little parties they have. I didn't look to see what the charges were.
I know they had, I think there was a brunch. I don't think it would cost anything that they had a brunch that was like a character brunch that you could go take the kids to, and I think some of the Cat in the Hat and
I think it was called Green Eggs and Ham.
Yeah, that's right. And that was, so it was kind of like a character breakfast aboard Disney Cruise Line, only it was for Dr. Seuss characters.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Now on to what we didn't like so much about this cruise. And let's start off with, we talked about,
I had one more thing.
One more thing she liked.
One more thing
I
liked.
Good. I'm glad we have more things we like before we get to the negative stuff.
So I actually liked how they did the internet plan compared to other cruise ships.
That's true. That was interesting the way they did it.
Right. So like on Disney Cruise, if you've gone on Disney Cruise, you sign up on the first day and you get, a small package or portion of a package, and that you really have to keep track of your minutes and how long everything is taking. On the Carnival, they actually have internet plans that you can save money by pre-purchasing, and they have like 3 levels. In the lowest level, which was less than $7 a day, gave you access to social media. So whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those, you would have unlimited access that day for those, and you could get it per cabin. So like we were able to use it together as long as we weren't on a device at the same time.
Right.
If you wanted to both have access at the same time, you'd have to get 2 packages. And then they'd have the next level that allowed you more access with emails and some other websites, and then obviously the premium package that gave you everything and supposedly at a 3 times faster rate. But I thought that was a really nice way to have the internet plan set up compared to anything else we've seen on cruise ships.
Yeah,
so I have to prepay and know what it was going to cost.
Especially when you kind of are out there. A lot of people are into the social media and want to share what's going on in their vacation nowadays, but you don't. You're not maybe going and visiting all these websites or whatever. Right. So why would you need to, fully pay the full fee when you just want to get on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever you're doing, Pinterest? Right. If you just want to get on those things. So it was nice to have that just a little bit less expensive package there that you could use. If you want to get your emails in, but you still don't want to visit a bunch of other sites, then you can do the email one. Yeah. It really was. You're right. I left that out, but you're right. That was a nice addition. Yeah.
Like I said, you knew what that cost was. It wasn't that bad, actually. It was a really good cost. I mean, I guess because it's based on the number of days of your cruise. So if you have a 2-week cruise, then it might start getting a little pricier. But yeah, at least you knew what it was. There wasn't any additional cost. Whereas on other cruise lines, as you use up your time, and you have to buy in more. And this way, you just knew what it was.
Right. Exactly. So, are those the things? Anything else you want to add from things we liked? Or?
Yeah, I think that goes with the things that we liked.
Okay.
Yeah. Good
deal. Now we'll go on to the negative. Now that we're going to stick around, there wasn't a lot of negative, actually, surprisingly. Right. We actually loved this cruise for the most part. Here's the things we didn't like, though. The nickel and diming, we told you about it. It's kind of what it is. When you pay the cheaper fare to get on this cruise, there's going to be stuff that they're going to try and charge you for. There was a lot of stuff, the different food items, a lot of the different drink packages. There are a lot of sorts of different photo things. They're trying to smack you with the photo things all the time. Various different things. Not crazy about it. Didn't hurt our vacation. We got used to it pretty quickly and just knew when to just pass that stuff by. But just so you know going in that's a negative thing that you're probably going to have to deal with if you go on this.
Right. I think for us it was at first very overwhelming how much
we forget when we've been on Disney so often how that can be. Yeah.
Right. Or even Royal Caribbean or Princess and things. They don't upsell as much. But once you just realize that's what it is, and you have the control of what you want to spend, then you can get past it and enjoy the rest of the cruise. Yeah.
The one thing we really disliked, and that was the main dining room. Mm-hmm. It was really disappointing because we're so used to being with Disney Cruise Line, but many other cruise lines. We sailed with Princess, we sailed with Royal Caribbean, we sailed with Carnival before, and it used to be better than this. But we went into the main dining room, and maybe it was just our servers, but they just didn't seem to care much. They didn't seem to try and. They didn't know our names at first going in. I mean, they remembered it when we came back later, but they didn't know our names coming in, which is a rare thing. Usually the server has that into their head. They didn't even seem to know the menu. Like, we would ask for recommendations. They're like, you choose.
Right.
And it's like,
input.
How about helping us out? Because you've seen this stuff. We haven't seen it. What might be better? We'd like a little help from this regard. It seems like it was a new menu to them, but I know it wasn't. So it was really strange. The food was lackluster in the dining room. Almost everything I need. I never liked to shake salt on anything. I needed to shake salt on just about everything in the dining room. Was really unimpressed. That being said, like I said, the food and part of it you can say is, well, you're paying extra. Of course, that food should be better. And yes, it was. But also the buffet was surprisly good. Every time we went to the buffet, it was shockingly good for, buffet, you're used to it not being that great aboard a cruise ship or wherever. It was actually surprisingly good. And that didn't cost anything extra. And it was the easiest thing to get if you wanted to.
That's true. And they also had the little side buffet on a lower deck that was also available during the day. It didn't have quite as much. But what it did have was a lot nicer, too. Yeah. I mean, so...
They had a lot of different food areas. That's part of the reason why, as I said before, it didn't feel that crowded. There was a lot of different places where people could visit to pick up food. And most of it didn't cost anything extra. There's a burger place. There's a taco place. There's the barbecue place on certain sea days would serve out lunch for free. I mean, it was a charge if you went into the restaurant in the evening, but it was kind of a buffet thing in the day for free, and that was good. So, there was food options. I just was disappointed in the main dining room, and I don't think when we do this cruise again in the panorama, we may not spend as much time in the dining room if this was any indication of what's coming for it in the future.
Right. I mean, the other option, too, that we didn't take a hold of was the anytime dining. And that way you might get different servers on different nights, and you might find somebody then that is really, a team that is really cohesively working together to help the guests, and then you could stick with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what we're used to. And that's part of the reason we were disappointed, is because one of the reasons, we didn't go into one of the paid restaurants. We could have gotten to the steakhouse the very first night and gotten a free bottle of wine with our meal for doing it the very first night. Right. But I was like, no, we want to get to know our serving staff and get them to know us. And so we'd be ready. After going through this one, we were like, no, we could have done any time, and we could have picked, whatever servers or whatever table we wanted at whatever time we wanted. And that's what we'll do, at least going forward, until we hear that things have changed for Carnival. The only other thing that I'd say we didn't really like, or at least I didn't really like, the activities list was fairly small. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on that you didn't have to pay a little extra for. I mean, they did have trivia going on regularly throughout the day, but it was funny because they would stagger them back to back to back to back to back. And so people that love trivia would just park themselves in that area and play trivia all day. And so if you just wanted to get in for one, it was a little difficult at times. But,
right.
I mean, we did do a salsa dance class, which was fun. And we did do a couple of the trivias, and they were fun, but it didn't seem like there was a lot going on. But that was fine because we had a great cabin, which we enjoyed our veranda a lot. I read 2.5 books while we were there. We saw they had plenty of free on-demand movies that we checked out, movies we hadn't seen before. And, we just enjoyed it for what it was. Right.
To just kind of detach from everything else. It was great. But you're right. The activities were not as impressive during the daytime, and even in the evening. And not sure about what was going on. We heard some rumors of some things. They had one, production show that I saw part of, and that was really good. But
okay, that's good.
I don't think that they had too much else. I mean, we didn't go see the magician.
No,
but
which we never do,
stage,
really, except for the guy who came in with the chef's table. But yeah, I mean, we're so used to Disney, and they have such great shows that, it's kind of like you kind of miss it when they're not there.
Exactly.
You're looking forward to it. So, I mean, they did have first-run movies there. I mean, they have an IMAX theater on board. Yes, you had to pay a little to go see them. But if you want to go see movies, they had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse playing there. They had Aquaman playing. Yeah, we could have gone and done that. We didn't. We tried to. We actually wanted to see Spider-Verse, but it didn't work into our schedule, so we didn't get to do it. But what can you do? Anyway, is there anything else that you didn't find that you like?
No, I think that was
yeah. I mean, so overall, just a few things that we didn't like so much. And overall, it was a great trip, and we enjoyed it. And you just got to know what you're going in for when you go with Carnival. And at some point in the future, we're going to compare all the different cruise lines we've sailed on and tell you what's good and what's bad about each one of them. That's going to be one of our main topics in one of our episodes coming up here. So we will get to that in the future. On to what else we did on this vacation. Yes, we got done with the cruise, and then we headed up north from Miami in Florida up to, first we went to Coco to visit her sister and brother-in-law, but then we had to go. We can't be in Florida without paying a visit to Walt Disney World Resort, and it just happened to be the Epcot International Festival of the Arts going on, so we had to check that out for you. But we are only there for a short time, so, we kind of figured we might need a little somebody to help fill in the gaps who happened to be there at about the same time we were. And it just so happens he's been a guest on this show in the past, just a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and he's also an OG Hyperion Adventure. Rob LaBarre joins the show. Rob, so happy to have you with us again.
Well, thank you guys for having me back.
Oh, always. We're happy to have you. And by the way, we got to meet Rob when we were out there, him and his lovely wife, Kim, and we had a great evening with the two of them.
It was a blast. Absolutely.
You're still recovering, I know.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. We had, by the way, another note, the Top of the World Lounge for all you DVC members is open. It's still good to go. We went up there and had a great time with Rob and Kim. And yes, we're still paying for that night a little bit, but we had a good time.
It was fun.
So let's get to the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. As I said, we were there for just a short time. Rob was there for, how long were you there for? You were about a week out there?
Yeah, we were there from the Wednesday prior to meeting up with you guys through the Wednesday following that. So we were there for 7 full days.
Nice.
Perfect. But the Festival of the Arts didn't open up for a few days till after you got there. So how many times did you get to go visit the International Festival of the Arts?
We made 3 separate visits, and we were
Nice.
kind of working it in with some of the kind of deep dives into the pavilion that we wanted to do on that trip. So it was a nice balance of, old standby or standard Epcot, as well as some of the new International Festival of the Arts offerings that they had this year.
Very cool. Yeah, we had a great time in the short time we were out there. We tried to take in as much as we could. We only had a few hours to do it, but we tried to get in a few things. And I thought what we go through is kind of some of the things that we liked about it, some of the food, mostly food. I'm just going to talk food mostly because that's what I do. I'm hungry always during the show is going on, and so we need to talk food. So most of the things that we kind of liked, some of the stuff that was pretty good, some of the stuff that maybe wasn't as good, and then the stuff that we're going to try and help you out, but just don't bother trying to pay for this food because we didn't think it was that good at all. I think you might have some agreements on those, Rob.
No, absolutely.
So let's start with, well, first of all, let's just start with what the Epcot International Festival of the Arts is. And it's really a kind of a cool way to use the World Showcase and much of Epcot to bring out a lot of artists so they get exposure, but there's also lots of activities out there. In the Odyssey, which was for so long has actually kind of sat dormant over there on the side. They kind of opened it up this year, and that was kind of their show place where they were doing a lot of things. The festival showplace is what they called it. And I know they had the Animators Academy out there. We saw them teaching people how to draw Donald Duck when we were out there.
That's right.
I don't know, Rob, did you get a chance to check out any of that the activities that were going on throughout there?
It seemed like every time we passed by the festival stage, they were between artists, so we didn't see a lot of that. Obviously, the human statues were pretty much always out there. Mm-hmm. We gotta do a pretty good dive through of all the booths that they had, and obviously some of the food.
Yeah, that's what we mainly went through is the food. We did check out some of there are also lots of tents and kiosks that have display different people who've done lots of various styles of Disney art. Some of it is very Disney, some of it's just kind of a hint of Disney, but really interesting stuff to go check out. And we actually saw a couple of the artists painting things while we were out there, which was kind of cool.
Right. And there was some really beautiful things. We fortunately didn't have any room in our suitcase.
I was able to corral her and say, no, we cannot. We're not paying to ship this home. We are not buying this thing. We are able to come away without, but it's really tempting. There's some really nice pieces of art out there for sure.
I'm sure you saw some nice Star Wars things out there, Rob.
Yeah, we did actually. We kind of were remarking that there seemed to be less Star Wars art than the first year that we were there, which, obviously we were there for the inaugural as well. But, the booth that they had still had some pretty cool pieces in it, including must have been a 6-7 foot tall Darth Vader painting.
Wow.
But that wasn't going to fit in anybody's suit.
As I said, one thing to pay for the art, another thing to pay for the shipping.
Right.
We're not adding that onto it. Anyway, so let's get to the most important thing, and that is the food. So we tried several small plates around there. I'm sure, Rob, in your 3 days there, you got to try several of your own, maybe some that we've tried, some other ones that you liked. Tell us some of the things that were your favorite things that you tried out there.
I think probably the two that really stood out for us were at the American Pavilion, at the Artists Table, I believe it was the name of the booth. Mm-hmm. They had a beef Wellington with mushroom bordelaise, fennel cream, and roasted baby vegetables. I believe you guys had commented on this as well. Mm-hmm. That was $8. It was Disney Dining Plan snack eligible, and we thought that was really good. It was tender, smoky meat, and the bordelaise sauce was really good. I wish they had put more of that sauce on the dish, actually. But overall, it was really well cooked.
Yeah, we agreed. That was one of our favorites as well. Interesting that you bringing up the snack option there for the Disney Dining Plan. I don't think many people know that going into that you can use some of your snack credits for these. And you brought that up to me. We didn't do the Disney Dining Plan. Obviously, we were just there for one day, but I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, it's actually, we generally don't do the dining plan. We were there in September for International Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, and we did get free dining for that trip. So definitely with the snack credit, anytime you're getting more than $5 or $6 out of that snack credit, it's really excellent value on the dining plan. And so being able to use your snack credits for these items from almost every booth, the food items are eligible, is a great way to use your dining plan.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, and a very good tip. Thank you for that, Rob. By the way, also, if you're going out there to the Artist Table and the American Adventure, one thing that we really loved was the Saugatuck Brewing Company Neapolitan Milk Stout. Because we happen to like dark beers, and that is one, if you like dark beers, that is one worth sampling. It actually went really well with the Beef Wellington.
Absolutely, yes.
And coming from Michigan, we have access to that all year round. So.
Hey, perfect. Sometime we're going to have to trade some of our craft beers, our San Diego area craft beers, with some of your Michigan craft beers.
Absolutely.
And maybe do a taste-off or something. I don't know. It'd be interesting. So what was the other thing that you found that was really good, that you really liked, the food kiosks?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if this is on your list as well, but the sushi donut from Takumi Table at the Japan Pavilion, which featured salmon, tuna, shrimp, avocado, and Masago accented citrus soy jelly with some wasabi cream. That was $7.50, again, dining plan, snack eligible, and Kim, my wife, basically thought this was the best dish of the festival, hands down. It was really fresh. The rice was tender and sticky, and it was really, really tasty.
Yes, we got it, and we thought, okay, well, we'll get this, and it'll be a nice picture because it's really beautiful looking. A sushi donut is funny because, you think, what, sushi in a donut? What? No, it's the rice is formed in a circular dish like a donut, and then they lay the sushi, the actual fish and the other parts on top of it. And it's very colorful and very beautiful looking. But we thought, okay, we'll try it. It's a great picture, and we like sushi, so we'll give it a try. It was delicious. Don't you agree?
Was. I agree, and I agree with Kim. Of everything that we tried, and it was a small sampling of what we tried, that really was the best, and it was fun too.
We thought $7.50 for that was a steal.
Oh, we agreed the same thing. And we're like, we only paid $7.50 for this thing. That is an insanely good deal. And we would have, if we had more time, we probably would have hit that up 2 or 3 more times because that was really good. They also had when we were there for the Flower and Garden Festival last year, that was where they had the frushi.
Yes.
Which was the fruit sushi, which was actually pretty good too. So they always have interesting things going on at Takumi Table or whatever they call it in the Japan Pavilion during their festivals. So on to some things that were pretty good. Maybe not the greatest things out there, but were there some things you kind of liked, Rob, that maybe wasn't like their favorite thing, but you still kind of enjoyed it?
Yeah, we actually tried scallop dishes at both the American Pavilion at the Artist Table, and that was pan-seared scallop with chorizo, roasted red pepper coulis, and a Parmesan crisp. It was overall, it wasn't a bad dish, but it was a single scallop. Ours was pretty well cooked, but it was cool by the time it got served to us. And the roasted red pepper coulis was incredibly salty, so that kind of overrode all the other flavor of that particular dish.
Yeah, see, we tried that one too, and I actually had that on our not so good list because of the fact that, yes, the scallop was nice, but the scallop was the only thing that was really good on that plate. The chorizo and the roasted red pepper coulis, at least for us, yes, it was a little salty, but it was also a little bitter. Like they left some of the skins on, they didn't peel them correctly, or they didn't get some of the ribs out. It was just incredibly bitter to us, and it was a kind of a disappointment because it's a very pretty dish, and we heard in the past it was better than this, but it just wasn't so good. Maybe it was just a couple bad days. Hopefully they've improved it, but I would suggest, I guess you liked it okay, so maybe it's better than what we thought of it as, but
yeah, it was one of those dishes. There was it wasn't bad, but I certainly wouldn't go back and get that again. And we kind of had a similar experience on the Mexico Pavilion. Really, both of the entree offerings from that pavilion. One was a slow braised pork marinated in an ancho chili paste and served on fried corn dough with black beans, queso Oaxaca, crema mexicana, and salsa verde. That was $6.95, and it was good, but not nearly as good as what they had offered during the Food and Wine Festival. And they also had a scallop dish. At least with that one, it was like $8.25, but that one had 2 seared scallops with the ginger habanero sauce and some yuca puree. So it wasn't as hot as you would think for something that has habanero in the title. But it was kind of, the scallops were cooked well, but it was a forgettable dish, really.
That's too bad. That's a shame. A couple of things that we liked, but we didn't think were like really outstanding, but they were good. We had the Gallery Bites trio of hors d'oeuvres at the Painter's Palette and the Odyssey Festival Showplace. That the crispy truffled risotto ball and truffle aioli, which was really good.
Yes.
The traditional deviled egg with candied bacon was pretty good. Mostly the candied bacon made that dish with a little bit of the salty and the deviled egg, so it was kind of a sweet and salty thing. But the chilled shrimp and cucumber cream cheese on a crostini just kind of was a whatever on that dish. So it was all right. It just wasn't our favorite thing. We like the sous vide poulet rouge chicken roulade at Pop Eats near the Disney Traders. That was pretty good. Nice tender chicken. There was a little sauce in there that I wasn't crazy about, but there was also some sort of like blueberry or was it a beet sauce or whatever that was really good with it that we liked. Sauce, we also had the almond frangipane cake layered with raspberry jam that I know you loved a lot. That was really good.
And I've learned not to offer you any.
Yes, because I will take a good chunk of it. No, the worst thing, she tried to say, this is terrible. You don't want to try anything. Well, of course, when you say it's terrible, I got to try it now. She should have said, oh, this is great. I'm not going to give you any. And then I was, okay, fine, whatever. And then the other thing we liked, of course, because we had to have more beer, the Neapolitan beer flight at Decadent Delights near Port of Entry was kind of hit and miss. The Three Daughters Strawberry Blonde Nitro was okay. If you like lighter beers, it did have a hint of strawberry. It was kind of nice. The Breckenridge Nitro Vanilla Porter really just didn't go anywhere for me. It just didn't really pack a lot of flavor. But the Young's Double Chocolate Stout, which you've had in the past, not at this event, but someplace else, was really, really good. Again, of course, we lean towards the stout. But those were all right. Anything else that stood out to you, Rob?
Probably, I know that Kim had a dish from Refreshment Port kind of as you're coming into the World Showcase over by the Canada Pavilion, and this is a quick service location that's always there. She had some lobster chips, essentially.
Yes,
is what they were
we
called.
had those too.
Yep, with the house-made chips, lobster, and then like a lobster bisque cream sauce and some pickled jalapenos and citrus cream. It was $8.99, so a little bit more expensive, but they did put a decent portion of lobster on there. And other than the chips being fairly salty, it was a good dish.
Yeah, see, what we found with this is that if you got everything on the chip, it was okay. But if you had like too much of the chip, it was so salty that it would overpower the dish sometimes.
Yep.
So, take it for what you want with that. If you're willing to pay that, again, it's more expensive than some of the other plates, and it's hit and miss on it. Maybe it's something you want to try. I personally would say that we kind of wish we hadn't done that one, but I'm glad you liked it. And yes, there was actually a good amount of you could see the lobster on there. There was a good amount of lobster in it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the one thing that I will point out is I know that with this particular festival, they're really kind of going more for the plating of the dish and trying to make it artistic and beautiful. Right. And when they're producing it in mass quantities, the issue tends to be that sometimes the dishes are not as hot as you'd like them. And I actually had mentioned to Kim, I said, what's the inside of a tauntaun have in common with most of these dishes? And, they're all lukewarm.
Very nice.
What was your approach to deciding where to go and what to try?
I had actually looked at some of the menus prior to even coming down. I usually like to have a plan for stuff like that, but really we kind of tossed that out the window, and it was just kind of day by day when we were in there, depending on how hungry we were, we'd pick up, the guidebook for that particular festival and peruse it and see what looked good for that particular day. We didn't really drink a whole lot during the festival. Just
because saved it up for the night with us,
right? Right. It was usually earlier in the day. And we were, enjoying a cocktail in the evening typically. So
perfect. So yeah. So I mean, like I said, the food there, it's good to go in with a plan. We get the passport booklet. I have one right here, the festival passport. It lists all the food items when you're going out there, so you can check them all out ahead of time and pick out what you want to try, what you might miss. Again, we didn't try everything out there, so if you have any questions about it, we can tell you a few things, but we may not know everything out there, but we'd be happy to help you out. And if we didn't try it, maybe Rob did and Kim did, and we could hit them up as well for you, right?
For sure.
Was there anything that, was a highlight for you that, I wasn't expecting this kind of thing and either ran across it or experienced it?
Not really. I mean, we had a pretty good idea of what to expect, having been there for the inaugural year. I was, again, a little surprised. I thought maybe there would be more art booths up with this being the third year of the event. And it seemed, relatively similar to the first year we were there, possibly even a few less booths than what we thought. I do have to put a public service announcement out there. We did try the Diego Dragon Fruit Margarita in Mexico, and it was $14.25, and it was not good.
Oh.
I would, obviously everyone, feel free to try it for yourself if you're so inclined. But it was incredibly sugary. It was not cold at all. We each took a sip of it and ended up tossing it. So,
that's disappointing.
That says a lot right there.
Yes.
I mean, when they do these things, when they put all these things out there, like you said, Rob, I mean, yes, they are going for the artistic, especially with the Festival of the Arts. They're going for the artistic style. And it is difficult, when they have these off-site locations and they're feeding so many different people on the day that it can be tough to put these out. And so some items are going to be hit and miss. And they're probably, are days where one item might be better than a different day, whoever the chefs are putting it together. Yes, you'd like some consistency, but they're putting out so many of these items that they're bound to vary a little bit. So if there's something that we didn't necessarily like as much, it may be better on the day you get there, or it may be worse. You just can't know for sure. But there is definitely a lot of great stuff to go try out there. I think you both agree with me, Michelle.
Right,
and Rob.
right.
Absolutely.
And their layout. I mean, of course, we're used to here in Disneyland or California Adventure, when they have the food and wine festival here, the kiosks are all very close together, and it gets kind of cluttered when you have lines kind of commingling. Where at Epcot, you have that grand space that you can really, walk from area to area and not be so much bumping up against everybody. So that's really a nice benefit.
It was also so different because the first day we were there and we popped in for a couple hours, it happened to be Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and a lot of people were off on a break for that day, and going through there. It was very crowded. It was the end of the holiday weekend. We went and popped in the next day, and it like half the people there. It was much easier to cruise through for sure. That plays a part in it as well, of course, as it would with any Disney park. You pick and choose the dates you make it there and know what you kind of have an idea of what you might be in for when you go. Speaking of going to a Disney park with fewer people, we also understand the reason why we're bringing Rob on here as well is that while he was out there for that week, he also got to experience Disney After Hours. We have not experienced that yet, so we brought him on to discuss it with us and share his experience out there with it. So, Rob, tell us how was Disney After Hours for you?
We actually love the event. For me personally, I'm 6'4", and on a typical day in Magic Kingdom Park, I am doing a lot of stutter stepping. Obviously you've got people cutting across, and the strollers, and there's usually a lot of crowds, especially in places like Storybook Circus or back in New Fantasyland. So anytime we get an opportunity to visit any of the parks with limited crowds, it's always a giant plus. For us, the specifics of the particular offering, the Disney After Hours at Magic Kingdom Park, advanced purchase of the tickets were $125 plus tax. If you purchase day of, it's $129. But we took advantage of an annual pass holder discount, and they offer the same for Disney Vacation Club members. So it was only $95 plus tax, and it came out to, I believe, $202.36 for the two of us.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, and it's the same price. They don't offer children's prices. If you're under 3, obviously you don't require a ticket. So if you get a group of small children together, they could go for free. But
very small.
Right. And you don't need a day ticket for the park. But if you only have a party ticket for that day, you can get in beginning at 7 p.m.
Oh, nice.
Perfect. So a little mingling with the people that are there, then they escort them out, and you have room to skip through the park.
Actually, the interesting thing about this, and it is different than how they do the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, because for those events, while they will escort guests out of the park and they have checkpoints set up around property to kind of guide people to the front if they don't have a party ticket, for the after hours tickets, they don't do that.
Oh, really?
They don't clear out the park. So park guests can get in line for a ride, up to the closing time for the park. On our night, it was 8 p.m., and the party went until 11, so it's a 3-hour event. That night as well, Happily Ever After was at 8 o'clock that evening. So there were a lot of guests in the hub that stayed fireworks. And by the time they got out of the park, it was probably 8:45. But they had closed most of the dining locations in the back of the park at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
So the back of the park where the attractions generally were was pretty emptied out. Day guests could get in line, though, right up until park closing time, and they'd be able to ride the ride. So early in the event, you can have a little bit of a wait to get on some of the attractions. Usually by the time you're 45 minutes to an hour in, the park is pretty well cleared out to where it's just party guests.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. So since when it did finally empty out, how easy was it to get on these attractions? Was it just pretty much in front of the line most of the time, or were there small waits? What was it like?
It was, they were all walk-on for
Nice.
us. Unfortunately, I do know that Mine Train tends to have a slight wait, but Mine Train was actually down for probably the first hour and a half that we were back there. Fortunately, I'd already gotten a fast pass for it earlier in the day. We'd already ridden it, but if you're looking to do an after-hours event for those particular attractions, which is a big draw, then that could certainly be a downer if those attractions are down. Peter Pan's Flight was also closed for refurbishment, which would be another of the primetime attractions that some people would go to an event like this for. So, but we did Big Thunder Mountain and Space Mountain. We did completely avoid doing Pirates. We did that before the event started. There is a history of Pirates breaking down during this event, and that is an awful way to waste an hour of your 3 hour.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
After hours ticket. So, I wasn't even going to play with that jinx, but they have all the snack carts are open. You can walk up. All the ice cream is free,
Nice.
including the Mickey Premium Bar and the ice cream sandwich, the fruit bar and the chocolate covered banana if they have it, and free popcorn and select beverages. So basically, any of the popcorn carts that have the Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, or bottled water, you can get any of that for free.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So bottom line, do you feel that it was the price was worth the experience you got out of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we'd ridden all the attractions before, but it's a special feeling to be in that particular park with that limited number of guests, and it is significantly less people than you'd see at any of the parties, the Halloween party or the Christmas party.
Oh, nice.
And most people, unless you were going to the park in the 70s when it first opened, I don't think most people have ever experienced the park with that few people in it. It's an awesome opportunity to get pictures in front of the castle with very few people in the background.
Oh, cool. Speaking of
And
pictures.
They do have PhotoPass photographers set up, and they'll usually line them right up down Main Street. So, the farther away from the castle you are, you're getting your picture taken, and you're basically blocking out the groups closer to the castle. So they have this down to a science.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yeah. And the only other thing I think should be mentioned is, fortunately we were already using the buses, but the monorail, the ferry boats, all those things stop service at their usual time after park closing.
Oh, wow.
So there is bus service available and minivan service available after you get out of the after-hours event to get back to your resort. But the monorail, the ferry boat, those things are not available.
Oh, interesting.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You don't want to be out there waiting for the monorail. Nope, not showing up, or the boats.
It is a long wait.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, we'll be here sometime. Well, thanks, Rob. We really appreciate your insight on not only the Epcot International Festival of the Arts, but also Disney After Hours. And we really appreciate, by the way, getting the chance to meet with you and your lovely wife. We had such a good time, and I think we have a blossoming friendship. And I also understand their little birdie in my ear tells me there may be a little something else coming up, maybe a little podcast, maybe something in the works.
Possibly.
Nice.
Something that we might be helping Rob with here in the future, and we will let you know more about that when we find out more about it as it progresses. So let's
Yes, and we had a wonderful time meeting with you guys as well. We're already looking forward to hopefully meeting up again in June, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's our pleasure, and again, really appreciate the input you always give to our show, but especially with this one as well. So.
Yeah, I felt I learned a lot here, especially about the after hours. I had, like you had said, that we had never done that before. We've talked about that. It's out there, but it's great to know that. And your tip for the art festival as well, to have the points from your meal plan. Excellent tip. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. We're already looking forward to doing an after-hours event at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I am looking forward to riding Slinky Dog Coaster about 20 times.
I like that.
right.
That's the plan. That is a good plan. All right, thanks. Rob LaBarre joins us again, and he probably will be a frequent contributor here because he always brings such good input to our show. Thanks, Rob. I really appreciate it again.
Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, guys.
So once again, thanks to Rob LaBarre for joining us. And he always gives us such great content, and we look forward to more stuff with him in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I learned a lot from that. So.
Absolutely.
And hopefully our listeners did too.
Yeah. So we still have a couple more things from our vacation. Really, we're going to wrap this up pretty quickly here, but just wanted to hit up on a couple more things that we got to experience. One thing is we actually got to check out Club 33. We had someone that brought us on board, and thank you to that specialist person for bringing us on to check out the Club 33 at Magic Kingdom Park. Was really interesting to see, and it was really a nice experience.
Beautiful, really cool. Wish we could have had tons of pictures to share, but we follow rules.
We can't do that.
We're
we can't
good.
do
We're
that.
good
Can't take
rules.
a lot of pictures, but it was a fun experience for sure. But what really wrapped up our vacation the best way was going to see our favorite musical of all time, and that's right, we saw Hamilton again. It had just happened to be opening up at the same time we were there at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Arts for the Performing Arts in Orlando, and it was just a spectacular night.
Absolutely. And, Disney did an awesome job with that facility. It is beautiful, easy to move around. It prevents a lot of congestion that you see in other types of theaters and everything. So that was really, really nice to be able to experience that as well.
Yeah, it was a really interesting show. We were kind of concerned with our seats. What we had for our seats when we got these was what's called a mezzanine box. And it's very forward, but it's really on the side. So when we sat down in our seats, we couldn't see a portion of the stage. And we had a little concern there because we'd seen the show before and we know some stuff that happens around that area. But as soon as the show started, the cast came out. We were so close. We could really see them emote, really act out their parts. And we did not miss that portion of the stage that much because they were so good and it was so interesting to check out in a different way a show we'd seen before.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, some of the speakers covered the left side of the stage for us, but we did also get to see the where the orchestra pit was and see the music director. So that was fun, once in a while to kind of glance at that and seeing how he was really coordinating things with what was going on stage. And again, as you mentioned, we love this musical. It's just amazing, and they did a great job, and it's been fun kind of connecting with some of the cast on social media to see that they're Disney fans.
Who knew that would happen? Yeah, it was the Phillip cast, by the way. There are a few different touring casts right now. There's the Angelica cast, which we saw here in San Diego. There's the Phillip cast, which we saw previously in Costa Mesa. Now they're in Orlando, and there's now the Aunt Peggy cast, which is the one that's currently performing in Puerto Rico with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Right.
This cast, we saw them again a little bit ago in Costa Mesa, and they were good, but we didn't think they were our favorite cast. But seeing them this time, it's like they've developed over the several months since then, because maybe it was just where we're sitting. I don't know. But it was an amazing performance. Nick Walker, who you were just talking about, who played Aaron Burr, was spectacular and stole the show. And yes, by the way, we found out after we, gave him a little, sort of a cast compliment in that regard, on Twitter, that he happens to also be a big Disney fan. He's like trying to plot out ways to get his castmates, to tickets to go to the Walt Disney World Resort as well. He was talking about trying to get family members Hamilton tickets and trying to get your castmates Walt Disney World tickets. He's like trying to get that going, doing it one time. But interesting. And, he's interacted with us a little bit on social media, and we're hoping maybe we can expand that a little bit and maybe some point try and get him on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He liked the Epcot International Art Festival. He was enjoying the food, and it was cute how he was trying to avoid desserts because of the the costumes.
Right. Yes, that's right. It's a tough costume to fit into. He also mentioned that when we posted the cast compliment essentially for doing such a great job on the show, that he hashtagged it with Flight of Passage forever. So he loves Flight of Passage so much. So it's just kind of cool to see other people, members of the cast that did a great job. Joseph Morales as Alexander Hamilton, right. Shobha Narayan as Eliza Hamilton, and Tareya Campbell as Angelica Schuyler. The whole cast was magnificent, but all those people I think were particularly standout performers.
Right,
for sure.
Right. And it was something to really see and appreciate. And like you said, with our seats being so close to the stage, that we could really see and appreciate all their facial expressions and how they really engaged into the whole performance. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was also fun because we brought your sister and brother-in-law. They had wanted to see it for a long time, and now they finally got to check it out. And I know that we've seen it a couple times. We've been blessed and lucky. I know many people have not had the chance. We've been very lucky in many regards to be able to see this a few times. Taking them to see it for the first time and how excited they were for it was really cool to see as well.
Yeah, it was nice. And we also found a really fun restaurant, a really nice restaurant that was, we kind of accidentally happened upon. You did a great job researching. And
total luck. We were trying to look for, we kind of decided we were late in the game. We were going to do dinner beforehand, and we needed kind of an early dinner time. So we were looking around places close to the theater to try and find a place. And we had a couple spots in mind, but for the time that we wanted to get there and still be able to get to the theater in time and everything, surprise, as close to the theater, the reservations were all booked up. So I just kind of expanded the search a little bit and stumbled across this place and, looked at the reviews and looked what the food was like, and it sounded wonderful. So we went, and they did have a reservation for the time we wanted. We went there. The place is called Soko Restaurant in Thornton Park in Orlando. It's a contemporary take on classic Southern cuisine, and it is magnificent. The food, everything we got was delicious. We all four of us at the table got different plates, and we all loved all of our plates. There was nothing that missed there. Great beer and wine selection as well. And they also have brunch there. I'd highly recommend you checking it out if you happen to have a car or have a way to get out if you're visiting the Walt Disney World Resort or Orlando in general. I highly recommend this restaurant. It's really, really good.
Oh, yeah. They had some really unique takes on the dishes. So, I mean, like the one that I had, which was chicken fried cauliflower. It was amazing. And who would have ever thought to do that with it? And a lot of their meals, and they also accommodated a request to have one of their appetizer plates done up as an entree.
Chicken and dumplings dish, which was spectacular that your sister had. I had a pecan crusted snapper with shrimp hush puppy, or no, shrimp. Yes.
Shrimp hush puppies.
Yeah, shrimp hush puppies with it. That was great.
And that was one of the more traditional dishes on the whole menu. Everything else was...
Well, they had like a seared meatloaf with a lobster mashed potatoes on the menu that we didn't get, but was interesting. Your brother-in-law, Tom, got a... what was it, black-eyed pea ravioli that he loved? Yes. And they also there were some fried green tomatoes he got with him. I got to try one of those. It was delicious. Everything was spectacular. I couldn't recommend this restaurant more if you get a chance to get into the Orlando area. Really, really good stuff.
And it was very close to the theater. So if you're ever going to the theater there, then that's another option for you to have a nice, wonderful dinner.
And it was a nice area. It seems like they're kind of recapturing an area in Orlando and building up. There's a lot of shops and some other restaurants in there. It was kind of a nice area to just kind of check out that I didn't know existed.
Right.
So pretty cool. And they have indoor and outdoor seating. But the restaurant's really nice. They have a bar. It's really good. So check it out. That's our vacation. We're done talking about ourselves for a little while. It's only been over an hour of talking about ourselves mostly. So we can move on to the Disney Stories of the Week. Yes, we're back and we're doing a new episode. So we're back bringing you Disney Stories of the Week. And there's so much that's happened during the few weeks we were away. I can't get to nearly any of it. I don't even know if I'm going to get to all the stuff this week because we kind of got back later in the week. So I'm just playing catch up here, but we'll start with a little park news. And that starts with Disney announcing that they will be adding another themed land to Shanghai Disneyland based on one of our favorite recent animated films. This straight from the Disney Parks blog. Shanghai Disney Resort announced that a Zootopia themed land is coming to Shanghai Disneyland, marking the second major expansion since the resort opened in 2016. It will be the park's 8th theme land and the first ever Zootopia theme land at any Disney park.
It's awesome. And it just fits. You could totally see how that theme would be appropriate for a park, at one of the Disney parks. I love that idea. It's great. I mean, they have rich characters. They have great storyline to tag along with whatever attractions they may have. So it's exciting.
I think it's really exciting. That's one of our favorite movies. I love Zootopia so much. I love the characters. I love everything about it. I know there's going to be a sequel coming up to it as well. So maybe about this time this land opens, the sequel hits as well. Right. It's an interesting world to delve into. I just think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, especially since Disney's really done a great job now realizing that people want to have that immersive feeling or that experience. So, whether you're thinking of Toy Story Land or Cars Land, a Zootopia land, feeling that like all around you and everything. That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. That's a great idea. So more from the Disney Parks blog. They say the guests will be invited to experience the mammalian metropolis of Zootopia, quote, where anyone can be anything, end quote.
Wow, we didn't even have that planned.
I know. With a new major attraction that will seamlessly blend Disney storytelling and state-of-the-art technology, which we've seen a little bit of in some of the teases for the Beauty and the Beast attraction coming soon. Hopefully they're going to use some of that technology. Anyway, to bring this fan-favorite movie and its characters to life, including Judy Hopps, Nick Wilde, there'll be entertainment, merchandise, and food and beverage offerings will invite guests to fully immerse themselves in the Academy Award-winning animated movie, and construction is targeted to begin later this year.
That's so cool. That's
exciting news, and more the reason why we're going to look to get to some of the Asian parks coming up soon. Matter of fact, we talked to somebody about them, and he kind of gave us some tips on how to approach those parks.
Right, one of the cast members who has actually gone to travel to different Disney parks around the world. And so, he did give us some really great ideas.
Very good stuff. So looking forward to that. Moving on to Disney movie news. It was a big week for Disney movies because the Oscar nominations came out this week and several Disney films received nods. As a matter of fact, they received 17 nominations in total. The biggest news was, of course, Black Panther leading the way with 7 nominations, and they became the first ever superhero movie to receive a Best Picture nomination.
I know, and well-deserved. What a great film.
Great film, as you said, well-deserved. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's really great to see, and it's great to see some of the superhero movies starting to get a little credit when they are a good movie. Get in there and, sometimes, and even this year, I'm sure it'll be a lot of some of the movies that, a lot of people didn't see that are going to get all the notion out there. But, sometimes a great movie is a great movie, whether it's, got $2 billion at the box office or whether it got 100,000 at the box office. Give some of these films credit. I want to see movies like Black Panther when they are good. Now, there's a lot of bad ones out there or mediocre ones or just pretty good ones. When they're good, like Black Panther is, they should get the credit. And it's good to see it's finally happening.
It's great news.
Disney chairman and CEO Bob Iger said this about the nominations. Congratulations to all of our nominated films, and especially Black Panther. To see it recognized by the Academy today with 7 nominations, including Best Picture, is truly an honor. Congratulations and gratitude to Kevin Feige, the team at Marvel Studios, and to our director, Ryan Coogler, and his incredible team and brilliant cast. We're grateful for their creative excellence, unparalleled artistry, and heartfelt passion for this project. It's wonderful and humbling to see so many of our films recognized by the Academy this morning with 17 nominations across 8 films, including a Best Picture feature nomination, Best Picture nomination for Black Panther and Best Animated Feature nominations for Incredibles 2 and for Ralph Breaks the Internet. Just really good stuff.
Yeah.
So here's a list of all the nominations, and there are a couple things that I'm a little surprised by, and I'll get back to that in a second here. But first of all, we're going to start, of course, Best Picture, Black Panther, Animated Feature Film, we just talked about Incredibles 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Costume Design, Black Panther, Ruth Carter, who did that, Mary Poppins Returns, Sandy Powell, who did the costumes for them, original score, music original score, Black Panther by Ludwig Göransson, who we've talked about, is also going to be scoring The Mandalorian.
Right.
And Mary Poppins Returns, Mark Shaman, who loved his score very much. Music, original song, Black Panther, All the Stars, and Mary Poppins Returns, The Place Where the Lost Things Go. Production design, Black Panther by Hannah Beachler. I hope I got that right. And Mary Poppins Returns by John Mayer. Short film animated Bow.
Oh,
it was such a cute little short animated film. That got nominated. Sound editing for Black Panther, sound mixing for Black Panther, and visual effects. Marvel Studios Avengers Infinity War, Christopher Robin, and Solo got a nomination. Solo, A Star Wars Story for visual effects, also a nomination. So a lot of these up for visual effects in their category. So very good to see. And also, by the way, now that Disney's about to own Fox, a lot of their pictures were nominated as well. And so those are kind of going to be Disney entities pretty soon as well. Surprised me in this is that, yes, they got 4 nominations, but I was really surprised that Mary Poppins Returns didn't get more.
Right, yeah.
I really thought they might be up. I didn't think they'd win, but I thought they might be up for Best Picture. I really thought that Best Actor and Actress were a possibility for Emily Blunt and Lin-Manuel Miranda, especially Emily Blunt. Lin-Manuel Miranda maybe, but definitely Emily Blunt. I thought that she was up for it. I'm really surprised that there was not another song possibly nominated. And maybe some of the visual effects too. I'm surprised because I thought it was great, and so a little disappointed by that. But what can you say? People get the movies that get sort of snubbed every year, and then this year I just think Mary Poppins Returns deserved a little better. But
I agree. Although I guess you could summarize it. I mean, we loved it, although I think our conclusion was it wasn't as good as the first one. So maybe that's what kind of made some of the votes sway towards other films. I don't know. Yeah,
like I said, the biggest surprise to me is Emily Blunt not being nominated, because I thought she was spectacular, and I thought she really encompassed the role perfectly, and I really thought that she was. I'm really shocked that she didn't get nominated. Not even more than it being not tabbed for a possible Best Picture nod. Really thought that she would definitely be within the top 5 or 6 or however many nominations they have for that role. But what can you do? Still a great film, and I'm still looking forward to when we get to own it and see it many times at home and listen to the soundtrack over and over again, because it's so good. Hey, speaking of someone out of Mary Poppins Returns, there is a rumor, and we don't touch on rumors very often, but this happens to speak from one of our very favorite people. Well, one of my very favorite person. There is a rumor that Lin-Manuel Miranda is in talks to write a new film featuring Disney's first Latino princess.
Nice.
Yes. So this from page6.com. Miranda is apparently talking to Disney about a follow-up to its 2016 smash hit, Moana. I guess Miranda's father, Luis, exclusively told Page 6 he is talking to Disney about a sequel to Moana, but the movie will be about a Latina princess.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, of course, Miranda was the co-writer of the music on Moana, which, of course, boasted great monster hits like How Far I'll Go and You're Welcome. It's just a rumor, but I love the idea, and anything that Lin is involved with, I'm excited about, because he does everything he seems to do turns out magical.
Right. So. Yeah. So talented.
Page 6 did say they tried to contact Disney about this, but they didn't get back to them on it. So again, it's just a rumor. We don't know for sure, but I think it's an interesting, exciting rumor, especially considering that you've seen Disney embracing the diversity with their princesses and many of the characters as they've been moving forward. We've seen so much more diversity within their movies in recent years, and this would totally make sense for them.
Oh, absolutely. And, like you said, it's just, great to see Lin being more involved with Disney. His skill and his talent are just amazing, and they really enrich what Disney can produce. So that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be awesome. And of course, he's also working currently with Alan Menken on the live action remake of The Little Mermaid.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
looking
about
forward to that when that comes out as well, and seeing what that is like. So that's exciting. We both love both Lin-Manuel and Alan Menken two great performers.
Absolutely.
Moving on to Disney Cruise Line news. Port Canaveral officials approved a refurbishment of Disney Cruise Line's port terminals. So that's exciting. This straight from the Orlando Sentinel. The Canaveral Port Authority Board of Commissioners approved pursuing contracts for firms to work on both Terminal 8, where Disney currently sails out of, but also the adjacent Terminal 10, which would be able to support more Disney ships when the new class of ships debuts beginning in 2021.
Yeah, they're a little bit longer.
Just a little bit. They're not a lot longer, but just
longer.
a little bit longer. But they also will need, because there'll be more ships coming in and out of port, they're going to need another place where they can kind of bring these guys in, especially if there may be an occasion when they'll have two ships in Port Canaveral at the same time. Right. It doesn't usually happen right now, but it could happen in the future with new ships coming in. The proposed work, which has been conceptually approved by Disney Cruise Line according to port officials, will be for both land and marine work on the two terminals. Has been under review in recent months, with port staff offering recommended firms for the work. The commission approved negotiating a contract for a proposed $39.6 million for Terminal 8 work that includes renovating both floors of the Disney Terminal, which has not had any major changes since 1998. And that also includes a new luggage screening building, ADA ramp, a new area for arrivals, and technological improvements. Also needed is a new jetway-style boarding bridge. $6.8 million is earmarked for Terminal 10 work, the terminal currently mostly used by Norwegian Cruise Line, but would also be shared by Disney when their new ships come out. Those improvements include a new seating and concierge area.
Nice.
Yeah. So new work going in the terminals. Yes, I think, especially if you look at the Terminal 8, where Disney Cruise Line currently sails out of, one thing I've noticed is that was built when they had the smaller ships, the Magic and the Wonder. So if you have those ships in there, it's kind of fine. It still gets crowded in there. There's people waiting to board, but it's not. But when you have the Fantasy or the Dream in there, that terminal gets pretty crowded until they start really getting people on board. So a little extra space, a little more work on the area would probably be nice. And just not since 1998. That's been 20 years.
Right,
it's time to up this ante a little bit out there. So good to hear. So the other interesting thing that came out of this exact same story was that it also had within the sketches for it the possible title of definitely the new class of ships, possibly for the first ship itself. We don't know for sure, but this from the Disney Cruise Line blog. Triton class has been confirmed as the project name for Disney Cruise Line's new LNG-powered build. In public documents published by Port Canaveral, there are multiple mentions of Triton with regards to projects at Port Canaveral's cruise terminal CT8 and CT10. According to the design drawing attached to the capital project, a placeholder ship name, Disney Triton, is berthed at Terminal 10. Further details confirm the project name for the new class of Disney cruise ships is called the Triton class. This could be just a placeholder name,
right?
Or this could be what they're going to do going forward. The first ship could be the Disney Triton, and from there on, they could be the Triton class. It doesn't mean they'll all be named the Triton. They can't do that. Right. But again, this is just possibly a placeholder, but it's interesting.
Right. And actually, I saw this on the news, so I actually got to see what it looked like, and it was exciting, and the same kind of thing was being discussed by the, newscasters, is that, we're speculating on where that title will play into it, but at least it's a little something to have. And, excitement around the new ships coming out.
It definitely got the discussion boards and social media buzzing about it, one way or the other on either side of it, whether it means anything or not.
Right.
It was kind of interesting. Disney Cruise Line blog, by the way, which is a great, if you're planning a Disney cruise, or even if you have any interest in Disney Cruise Line at all, that blog is a great blog. They have all sorts of navigators on there and all sorts of news comes out. It's a great resource for you when you're planning your trip. Go to the Disney Cruise Line blog. They also mentioned that last week, the Disney Cruise Line blog received a tweet indicating that DVC reps on the Disney Dream were referring to the new builds as the Trident class. So take that for whatever you want. It was, Triton, Trident. were there some signals crossed there or, whatever. Disney, but they also go on to say that Disney revealed the names of the Disney Dream and the Disney Fantasy during the 2009 Walt Disney Company annual meeting of shareholders. That was over 2 years before the launch of the Disney Dream. Given this timeline and with Disney Cruise Line would need to start selling the first batch of sailings, one could pencil in an announcement during their next shareholders annual meeting scheduled for March 7th. 2019, so just a couple months away. We'll see if it's then. I was kind of hoping for the D23 Expo, but whatever, I'm excited to hear the names whenever they come out.
Right. So that is very cool.
So interesting stuff there, and lots of great new Disney Cruise Line news coming out as the new ships are getting closer and closer to coming to fruition.
Right. That's really cool. And, like you said, it's time that the port, makes the adjustment. Like you said, when we've been there for sailing on the larger ships, and it is so congested. So great nod that they're going to be making that expansion. I know they are also making some decisions for some of the existing ships to stay at Galveston a little bit longer. Miami a little bit longer. And so really exciting Disney Cruise Line news coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what their different itineraries are going to be for the new ships, the older ships. It's all exciting news, and glad that we're going to have many other ways to cruise with Disney in the future.
Exactly.
So that's our Disney stories of the week. And we're almost wrapped up here, but we never finish an episode. Even when we're away, we never finish an episode without giving you a vacation tip, something that might help you, whether you're visiting the parks, whether you're going on Disney Cruise Line, whether you're doing Run Disney, whatever it may be. We try and help you out with a little tip to get you through your next vacation. And we always start one with Michelle because she's wonderful, lovely,
so
spectacular, but also because she has the best tips. So we wanted to start you off with the best tip, and then you can decide if you want to turn us off before you get to my lowly little tip.
No, you have great tips.
You always got to go to Michelle's tip first. So let's not hesitate any longer. Let's get to Michelle's tip of the week.
Well, thank you, honey. So this one's a little different. I wanted to, since we were talking about our cruise, I wanted to give a tip a little bit about cruising. And this one is maybe how you can save a little money. And that is renting a car when you want to consider taking a cruise. If you're comparing it to what a cruise line transfer price, and whether that be Disney Cruise Line or any cruise line, and one of the things, like if you're cruising out of Florida, they usually do not have a penalty fee added on if you rent from one location to drop off at another location. So, for example, in Miami, we rented a car, dropped it off at the airport, and had the free shuttle from the rental car company take us to the port. Similarly, in Port Canaveral, you can drop the rental car off at a rental car area near the port, and they will generally have free shuttles. I mean, the other options you have are staying at hotels that provide free shuttles and things like that. But just to kind of broaden your availability of what may be a way to save some of your money for souvenirs, maybe on the cruise ship or whatever. But you may want to look into that idea of, renting a car and saving the money for something else. Because when you're talking about the transfers, that you're paying per person.
Yes.
And so when you're doing a rental car, especially if you're talking a family of 4, 5, 6, whatever, or, a bunch of people traveling together, a rental car might be the way to go.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, if you're looking, because the one thing if you're using the Disney transfers to go to Port Canaveral or any place, a lot of times you have to schedule those, and they don't necessarily always get you there the earliest time. If you want to get to the port as early as possible, say you're looking for that in-port upgrade, or if you just want to get on board the ship earlier, whatever the case may be, if you've rented a car, you can get there whenever you want, whereas you don't have to rely on somebody else and when they'll get you there. And a lot of times, yes, the price, even if you're just two people, the price will still be cheaper than the transfers to rent a car and then drop it off there. And the same going back if you're going back to Walt Disney World or wherever you're going to afterwards. Even if you're just going to the airport in many regards, it can be easier for you. And we did that. Yes, we did that. We did that from Orlando to Miami and Miami back to Orlando, by the way, just because we're just weird that way. We had to be in Orlando because that's just who we are. We can fly into Miami. But it worked for us. It gave us a great price, and it gave us a lot of options on what we decided to do, and it worked out really well.
And you bring up a good point about, if you're taking the transfer, you're going on a bus with a bunch of people. So once you get to the port, you're there with a lot of other people at the same time. So that could actually slow down some of the process than if you just went individually and kind of not as many people at the same time trying to check in.
Yeah, of course, the transfers are very good because there's a lot of stuff that is taken off your hands, off your plate. So, your time is there. You board the bus when your time comes up. You get there. They handle all your luggage. You don't have to worry about that.
Right.
You get off and everything, and you just go on the ship. Whereas if you rent a car, you are going to have to get the car, load it all up with your luggage, drop the car off, unload your luggage, hop a shuttle. And yes, there are some tricks that you will need to do. But if you want to be more in control of what you do, if you don't mind not just sitting back and letting it happen, it's kind of a good way to approach it, and it is a little cheaper.
Right.
Most of the time. Most of the time it's a little less expensive. So great tip. Michelle always has the best tips. Always
You're
the best tips. Now on to my tip. And apparently we must have been thinking about cruises after our last cruise, because my tip is also about cruising.
Wow.
And this happens to be some tips on choosing your cabin when you're trying to decide on your cruise. First and foremost, if you're choosing a cabin, start off with what you can afford. Okay. Most importantly, it's like, okay, what's my budget? Where can I be? What is the best possible one for me? Don't overspend on a cabin. Find out what is the best possible one for you. And there are many things that may play part in that. Of course, your bank account plays a part in that. There's no question on this. But there are other things that go on. What is your plan on board? What's important to you? Do you want to sit out kind of on your own, watch the water go by, and not have a crowd of people around you and read or whatever? Then maybe you want a balcony. Are you okay with you want to have a view outside, but you don't necessarily need to sit outside for whatever, you might just want an ocean view cabin,
Right.
Or maybe you're going to be spending more time later. It's a port heavy cruise, or you're going to be doing a lot of activities on the ship all the time. You're hardly going to spend any time in your cabin. Then maybe an inside cabin is perfectly fine for you. Check the itinerary. No, is it port heavy? Will I not be on the ship too much because I'm going to be going port, and I'm doing lots of activities in all these ports? All I'm basically doing is sleeping in my cabin, so I don't need to have a lot of extra stuff in my cabin.
Right.
Is it going to be sea day heavy, where you may be spending more time in your cabin? You may have more time on board the ship, or you need to use it more. What is the weather going to be like? Is it going to be super hot? Is it going to be really nice? Is it going to be really cold? That might tell you if you want a balcony or not, if it's worth it, because, if you're sitting out, how much time would you sit out there if it's too hot, if it's too cold, whatever it may be. Check out the ship's layout. What are the public spaces like? Are there great places to take in views? Maybe you don't need a balcony. Maybe you don't need a window if there are places you can sit and just enjoy the views in other places. Are there quiet places to relax and maybe read? Are the pools, are there, like on Disney Cruise Line, they have the adult pool. Are you going to use the adult pool? That usually is often a lot quieter. Right. A lot fewer people in there generally. And then also get to know what perks come with certain cabins. Of course, with Disney Cruise Line, they have the concierge cabins, where you get certain things like cocktail hours, certain perks brought into you, or that you can go get the wonderful coffee machine, and some other details with it. And if you're using a suite, you can have your dining room meals served to you right within your room. You don't have to go to the dining room if you don't want. Some other cruise lines offer things like we were talking about our Havana Cabana, where we had a secluded semi-secluded pool to use, and some private, kind of more of a private area, a bigger balcony, some other things. There are other categories that have like spa access attached to them. They're spa rooms. kind of get the idea of what those all are. Weigh what's important to you what is the biggest thing. What is important to you on your cruise and then you can look at the cabins and kind of decide what you want based on your budget. And we all have different things that are important to us. We have different things that are important to us on different cruises that we go on. Look at it all, weigh it all, and then you can find the best room for you.
That's a great point, And like you're saying, some of the things that you're considering, whether it's port heavy and things like that. The other thing is, are you traveling with a lot of people that you're not going to necessarily, again, be in the cabins a lot, that you're going to be going out and doing activities on the ship and things like that, you probably wouldn't be sitting out on a balcony alone because you're going with other, friends or family. So, great tip there on how to approach looking at which would be the best cabin. And as you mentioned, it even is very, destination driven as well. So it's not just the cruise ship itself.
Also, going, you'll hear about things about upgrades. We talked a little bit about a port upgrade. Bottom line is, don't expect ever to have an upgrade. Go with what cabin you will be comfortable with on whatever length of your cruise is. If you can either get moved up on some cruise lines, or if you can pay to move up a little bit less than it would have cost you to buy it otherwise, fine. But that doesn't always happen, so be happy with whatever cabin you booked.
Right. That's a very good point because I know that in the past, we've kind of approached it thinking, there's probably good likelihood we'll get an upgrade, and that didn't happen, and then be disappointed. So
yeah, it can happen, but just try and take it for what it is, and just enjoy your cruise and the cabin you're in. If you have any questions about choosing a cruise cabin, whether it's Disney Cruise Line, we've sailed on many cruise lines. We'd be happy to give you some pointers, tell you what our opinion is on it, and just contact us. And I'll give you all the ways you can contact us here in just a moment. And we'd be happy to help you out. And if we don't know, we'll ask somebody who does. We always are happy to do that as well. So, yes, Michelle has one more thing.
We didn't talk about our room at Disney World.
Oh, how did we not talk about that?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just popped into my head.
That's crazy. Yes. We stayed. Wow. I can't believe I didn't put that in our notes because that was part of the thing we stayed at. Reason we stayed there.
Right.
Yes. We stayed at the All-Star Movies.
Right.
Which is just it's in the process of undergoing renovations. And we stayed at one of the newly renovated rooms.
Right. We had heard that they had some of their rooms that were already completed with their renovation. So we decided, hey, let's try. We haven't stayed in one of the All-Star rooms in years.
This was the first place Michelle ever took me at the Walt Disney World Resort.
Many years ago.
So we've gone up from there, but we were really impressed.
Right. So we went into, right now they have the Toy Story rooms and the Fantasia rooms have pretty much gone through their renovation, and we were really pleased. One of the things that they have done is they have, one bed, and then the second bed is actually a Murphy bed, and when it's in its up position, then it serves as a table, and it has chairs there. And that was a really great, I think, change that they made. So you have what feels to be a lot more space in the room. You're not trying to just a typical hotel room where you have two beds there and that's it. You're that and the walls. So it was really nice to see that, how they had a little bit more space that they've put out in the restroom area and things like that. So it really was, and the theming was beautiful and fun. And we were in the Toy Story building, and it was great. I was really pleased with the changes that they've made into that category of rooms.
Yeah, we were really impressed by it, and the use of space with the Murphy bed and everything there was really good. The new amenities in the bathroom, I think, were really nice. The only one thing we had a problem with is one of the sliding doors in the shower. I don't know if it was balanced quite right, but it just would open just a little crack right near where the shower head came out. So there's always a little water on the floor over there, after a shower. But small thing. But I thought the bathroom was laid out well. The whole room was nice. The coffee area where they had the coffee maker,
right.
And they have a drawer that they put in all the little coffee pods and all the the creamer and the sugar and everything was really nice and easy to access.
Right. A little refrigerator, and that space I think was because they did move where that used to be where a table and chair were, I think. And so having the table attached to the Murphy bed freed up that space. And how convenient to have coffee, like, first thing in the morning without having to go to the food court or whatever. And the food court had a lot of great new things. They upped the ante on that food supply there and what things you could get. Not that I'm saying that it's the end-all be-all place for everybody, but they've really made some wonderful changes to make that as another great option to stay at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, it is the quote unquote more budget friendly. I mean, it's, it is a little pricey, but it is actually, I would stay there again.
Absolutely.
We enjoyed it. We thought it was partitioned out really well. Good use of space. The resort layout is nice. We were in the Toy Story wing and the Toy Story Andy's room there with the Toy Story characters was spectacular. I wish we had more time there to take more pictures, but we enjoyed it. And yes, we tend to go to more the moderate or more of the villas and such, because we're just hoity-toity that way now. But I was really impressed with the All-Star, at least the All-Star movies, and I'm assuming that they're going to also be doing some of the refurbishments eventually to the All-Star Sports and the All-Star Music as well.
Right. I think they took a little break over the holidays and they're resuming it now. But, and a shout out to Brandon, who helped us get one of the renovated rooms.
Yeah, because we didn't get one originally. So we're like, no, the whole reason we came here was to check out the renovated rooms. Which we, of course, forgot to bring on the podcast. But I'm glad you remembered. Michelle, again, always has the best tips. Her best tip this week was reminding me that we stayed in this room. And that was part of the reason we wanted to stay in this room was so we could discuss it. So, yes, I recommend it if you're looking for a more budget-friendly but still on-property resort. But just make sure you ask if they've had the rooms refurbished yet. The other rooms are fine, I'm sure, but take advantage of the refurbished rooms if you have the opportunity. So, all right, anything else I forgot?
No,
because
I think that's it.
I tend to forget things. So.
No, you've done great. You had a lot of great notes, and you drove this boat really fine today.
Yes, right into the reef. Right into the reef. All right, well, that's it. Thanks for joining us again. Next week, interesting stuff next week. We are going to the Disney Vacation Club Moonlight Magic on Thursday night at Disneyland Park. So we'll be recapping that a little bit, telling you all about that. If any of you are going to be out there, come find us and we'll have some fun. Also this week, coming out on Tuesday, this is something that may actually hurt our notes for next week in some ways because Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out on Tuesday. And so I'm sure we'll be spending the next week leading up to the podcast playing it nonstop. The good news is that we'll probably be able to tell you a little bit about it when we come into the next show. So we'll kind of, tell you what's gone on, how we enjoyed it to that point. I'm sure we won't have finished it yet, although you never know. I'll probably sit there for, 14 hours straight playing it because I tend to do that.
I'll need some time there, too.
That's true. We'll be fighting over the controller to play this game. But.
Speaking of Toy Story Land, they have
that's right.
Andy's bedroom there as well. So looking forward to that game.
We've been excited about it for 10 years now.
I know.
It's finally coming to fruition this week.
Hopefully.
And we will have it in the mail hopefully on Tuesday, and we'll probably be playing it Tuesday night. So we'll tell you all about what we've seen from that as well. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of other stuff to talk about for next week. So thanks for joining us. Follow us on social media. If you have any of these questions that we've talked about, need answered, if you have some tips you want to give us, some pointers. Tell us what you thought about the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. Did you like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? We'd be happy to share it on the show. You can find us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast, and you can always email us on HyperionAdventurespodcast@gmail.com.
Right, and as Tom said, please let us know if you've done the Epcot International Art Festival. We want to hear your opinions of that, and we'll be glad to share that on our next podcast and give you full credit for that.
Of course, always full credit for our Hyperion adventurers out there. Always do. And thank you for finding us today. In the future, you can find us on 1057max.com under the Max Plus tab, as well as on the Max FM app. Better yet, the best way to get this show is to subscribe to us. iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. There's probably a few other ways too, but those are the main ones you want to hit up. And if you have a chance, one, tell your friends about us. Let them know that this podcast exists. That's the best way to spread news that this podcast is out there, is by word of mouth. Another way to do it is, if you have time, just give us a little rating on one of these sites. If you have a little more time, a review would help so much. We've gotten we received some reviews recently, and they've really helped. But more reviews get us more noticed by people out there that are looking for interesting Disney podcasts, fun, positive Disney podcasts that people might enjoy. So if you have the time, we'd really appreciate it if you would just give a little review.
Right, and we really want to hear that feedback from you. We want to, as we've said, interactive. We want this to be a fun podcast for you as well. And if you have some ideas or suggestions how we can switch some things up, please share with that.
Absolutely. No question about that. Share it with us. We want to hear from you.
I think I just spoke like Yoda there.
Share with you. We will.
Sorry. Okay.
Perfect. Anyway, thanks for listening to us. It's another long podcast. Apparently, we had a lot to say because we've been on vacation for a couple of weeks, but we really appreciate it. You stuck around all the way to this point, even if you just fast forwarded to this point. Whatever. We're glad you stuck around, and we're glad you listened to us however long you listened to this podcast. So thank you again for listening to the Hyperion Adventures podcast. And we look forward to sharing some more time with you again next week. But until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.
Bye.